In the heart of a bustling science fair, 17-year-old Aisha Thompson, a black teen from a struggling Chicago neighborhood, unveils her groundbreaking robot, only to face cruel mockery from peers and judges who dismiss her creation as a ghetto project. But when a tech CEO witnesses her resilience and the brilliance of her invention, Aisha's life changes overnight with a life-altering million-dollar deal that silences her critics and ignites her dreams. What secrets does her robot hold? And how will Aisha navigate the challenges of sudden fame, systemic bias, and her own self-doubt? Before we dive into this powerful story of dignity in the face of discrimination, let us know where you're tuning in from in the comments below. If Aisha's journey resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe to Narratives of Black Struggles for more stories that expose the raw truths of racial injustice in America. Let's step into Aisha's world, where a single moment at a science fair becomes the spark that changes everything. Let's get into the story. Aisha Thompson's hands trembled as she soldered a final wire into place, her breath fogging in the chilly air of her family's garage. It was past midnight, and the single bulb dangling above her workbench cast long shadows across the cluttered space. At 17, Aisha was no stranger to late nights, her brown eyes squinting through the haze of burnt flux and motor oil. Her fingers, calloused from years of scavenging and tinkering, moved with a precision born of obsession. Before her stood Nexus, her robot, a humanoid frame of mismatched metal, its wires spilling like veins, its eyes two repurposed camera lenses. It wasn't pretty, but to Aisha, it was a masterpiece. "Come on, buddy," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the old space heater in the corner. Nexus was her lifeline, her way out of Westfield, a crumbling Chicago neighborhood where hope rusted faster than the abandoned cars lining the streets. She'd spent 2 years building it, teaching herself coding from dog-eared library books and grainy YouTube tutorials, scavenging parts from junkyards and thrift stores. Her mom, a night shift nurse, worried about Aisha's long hours, but Aisha couldn't stop. Not now. The Lincoln High Science Fair was tomorrow, her one shot to prove she was more than the ghetto girl her classmates sneered at. Aisha's heart pounded as she connected the last circuit. Nexus's eyes flickered, a faint blue glow pulsing in the dark. She held her breath, waiting. A low whir filled the garage, and Nexus's arm twitched, then lifted, its fingers curling into a clumsy wave. Aisha's face broke into a grin, her exhaustion forgotten. "Yes," she hissed, pumping her fist. It worked. Her robot, built from nothing, could move, respond, and, she hoped, impress the judges. She'd programmed it with voice recognition, adaptive learning, and a unique ability to repair small electronics, a skill she'd honed fixing her mom's ancient toaster and radio. If the judges saw what Nexus could do, maybe they'd see her, too. But as she powered Nexus down, doubt crept in like a thief. The other kids at the fair would have 3D printed models, sponsored kits, and parents who could afford private tutors. Aisha had a thrift store laptop that overheated after an hour and a dream that felt too big for her world. She zipped Nexus into a battered duffel bag, its weight heavy on her shoulder. "We got this," she told herself, though her stomach twisted with nerves. She flicked off the light and slipped into the house, the creak of the garage door echoing in the quiet night. Morning came too fast. Aisha stood in her bedroom, staring at her reflection in a cracked mirror. Her second-hand blazer was a size too big, and her braids, though neat, couldn't hide the frayed edges of her life. She smoothed the blazer, trying to ignore the voice in her head that whispered she didn't belong. "You're ready," she said to the mirror, her voice firmer than she felt. She grabbed Nexus's bag and headed out, the spring air sharp against her skin. Lincoln High's gymnasium buzzed with energy, a sea of booths showcasing drones, solar panels, and VR headsets. Aisha's table, tucked in a dimly lit corner, looked like an afterthought. She set up Nexus under a frayed cloth, hiding its mismatched parts until the judging began. Kids in crisp polos and designer sneakers milled around, their laughter bouncing off the walls. Aisha caught snippets of their chatter, talk of Ivy League dreams and summer internships. She tugged at her blazer, feeling like an outsider in her own school. "Yo, what's that? A scrap heap?" The voice cut through the noise like a blade. Marcus Reed, the school's golden boy, stood with his posse, smirking at Aisha's booth. His drone, a glossy black machine with neon lights, had already drawn a crowd. Marcus was everything Aisha wasn't: rich, popular, and effortlessly confident. "You really think that junk's gonna win?" he taunted, loud enough for heads to turn. Aisha's cheeks burned, but she forced a smile, her mom's words echoing in her mind. "Never let them see you break." "Wait and see," she said, her voice steady despite the knot in her chest. Marcus laughed, a sharp, mocking sound, and his friends joined in, their jeers following Aisha like a shadow as they sauntered away. She clenched her fists, glancing at Nexus under its cloth. "We'll show them," she whispered, her resolve hardening. The judges arrived an hour later, 3 adults in crisp suits, their clipboards gleaming under the gym's fluorescent lights. Aisha's pulse raced as she unveiled Nexus, her voice steady as she explained its functions. "Nexus uses adaptive learning to respond to voice commands," she said, her words practiced but genuine. "It can analyze and repair small electronics, like circuit boards, with a 95% success rate." She'd tested it endlessly, fixing everything from her neighbor's broken radio to her cousin's old Game Boy. The judges listened, their faces unreadable, but Aisha caught one of them, a gray-haired man with a pinched expression, muttering unpolished to his colleague. She powered Nexus on, its eyes glowing blue as it hummed to life. "Nexus, repair this," she said, handing it a broken radio she'd brought as a demo. The robot's arms moved with surprising grace, its sensors scanning the circuit board. Within minutes, the radio crackled, then played a faint jazz tune. Aisha's heart soared, but the judges' expressions didn't change. The gray-haired man scribbled something, his lips pursed, and the group moved on without a word. Aisha's smile faltered, but she kept her chin up, refusing to let their silence break her. The crowd wasn't as kind. As Aisha reset Nexus, a snicker rippled through the onlookers. A girl in a glittery headband leaned toward her friend, whispering, "Ghetto project," loud enough for Aisha to hear. Others joined in, their murmurs a chorus of disdain. "What's it made of, dumpster scraps?" someone called. Aisha's hands shook as she packed the radio away, her throat tight. She wanted to snap back, to tell them how she'd built Nexus from nothing, how she'd stayed up until dawn for months, how every wire was a piece of her heart. But she didn't. She stood tall, her eyes fixed on Nexus, her anchor in the storm. Hours later, the awards ceremony began. Aisha sat in the back, her hands twisting in her lap. The gym was packed, parents and students cheering as names were called. Marcus won first place, his drone earning a $5,000 scholarship and a standing ovation. Aisha's name wasn't called. Not for second, not for third, not even for honorable mention. The rejection hit like a punch, but she swallowed it, her face a mask of calm. She packed Nexus into its bag, the weight heavier now, and headed for the exit, her dreams feeling further away than ever. She was halfway to the door when a man stepped into her path. He was tall, with sharp features and a sleek black suit that screamed money. His gaze was intense, like he could see right through her. "Aisha Thompson?" he asked, his voice smooth but commanding. She nodded, wary, her grip tightening on Nexus's bag. "I'm Victor Lang, CEO of Horizon Tech. I saw your robot. It's extraordinary." He paused, his eyes locking onto hers. "I'd like to make you an offer. $1 million for the rights to Nexus, and a chance to work with my team." Aisha froze, her breath catching. $1 million? Her mind spun, the words too big to process. This had to be a prank, a cruel twist after a day of humiliation. But Lang's expression was dead serious, and the business card he handed her felt real, embossed with gold lettering that caught the gym's lights. "Why me?" she managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. Lang's lips curved into a faint smile. "Because you built something no one else here could. You saw possibility where others saw trash. And I think you're just getting started." Aisha stood there, the card heavy in her hand, Nexus's bag slung over her shoulder. The gym's noise faded, the jeers and snickers drowned out by the weight of Lang's words. This was her moment, the spark she'd been chasing. But as she looked into Lang's eyes, a flicker of unease stirred. Why was a CEO at a high school science fair? What did he really want with Nexus? And was she ready for the world his offer would pull her into? She didn't know it yet, but Aisha's life had just split into before and after. The girl from Westfield was about to become someone else, someone the world would notice, for better or worse. Aisha sat on her bed, the springs creaking under her weight, Victor Lang's business card pinched between her fingers. The room was a cocoon of familiar chaos, textbooks stacked on a wobbly desk, a cracked lamp casting a weak glow, Nexus's duffel bag slumped against the wall. But the card, glossy, gold-embossed with Horizon Tech, Victor Lang, CEO, felt like an intruder, its promise of $1 million both a lifeline and a trap. Outside, Westfield's night hummed with distant car horns and the occasional shout. But inside, Aisha's world was silent, heavy with the weight of a choice. She flipped the card over, rereading Lang's handwritten note. Call me. Your future starts now. V.L. $1 million could erase the bills piling up in her mom's drawer, the late notices taped to their fridge, the worry etched into Renee's face after every double shift. It could mean college, a new start, a way out of this neighborhood where dreams curdled faster than milk. But why Nexus? Why her? Aisha's gut churned. Lang's offer was too big, too sudden, like a shiny hook baited with danger. Her phone buzzed, snapping her from her thoughts. A text from Jamal. You alive? Marcus is still clowning about the fair. Ignore him. Aisha's lips twitched, a faint smile breaking through. Jamal was her rock, the one who'd cheer her late-night coding sessions and sneak her snacks when her mom wasn't looking. She typed back, I'm good. Something crazy happened, though? Talk tomorrow. She wasn't ready to spill Lang's offer, not until she could wrap her head around it. Aisha set the card down and unzipped Nexus's bag, the robot's mismatched frame glinting in the lamplight. Its camera lens eyes were dark, but to her, they held a spark. Her spark. She'd built Nexus from junkyard scraps, teaching herself Python and circuitry while her classmates partied. Selling it felt like cutting out a piece of her soul. What do I do, buddy? She whispered, her fingers tracing its wires. Nexus didn't answer, but its presence grounded her, a reminder of what she'd already overcome. Sleep was a lost cause. Aisha tossed until dawn, her mind replaying the science fair, Marcus's smirk, the judge's cold dismissal, Lang's piercing gaze. When her alarm blared, she dragged herself up, her eyes gritty but her resolve firm. She'd call Lang. She needed answers, even if they scared her. After choking down a bowl of cereal, Aisha dialed the number on the card, her palms slick. The line rang once, then, Victor Lang. His voice was crisp, direct, like he'd been waiting. Hi, it's Aisha Thompson, she said, wincing at how small she sounded. From the science fair. Aisha, Lang said, his tone warming just enough to notice. I'm glad you called. Can you meet me today? My office, downtown, 10 a.m. Bring Nexus. Today. Aisha glanced at her clock, 8:15. I've got school and... This is bigger than school, Lang cut in, smooth but firm. I'll send a car. Be ready in 30 minutes. He hung up before she could argue. Aisha stared at her phone, her pulse racing. Skip school? Her mom would ground her for life. But Lang's offer was a door to a future she'd only dreamed of, and she couldn't slam it shut without looking inside. She scribbled a note for Renee, at a school thing, back later, and packed Nexus, her hands trembling as she zipped the bag. By the time she stepped outside, a black sedan idled at the curb, its driver a silent man in sunglasses. Miss Thompson, he said, opening the door. Aisha climbed in, Nexus's bag clutched tight, feeling like she was stepping off a cliff. The drive downtown was a blur, Westfield's sagging row houses giving way to Chicago's gleaming skyline. Aisha's stomach twisted as the sedan pulled up to Horizon Tech's headquarters, a glass monolith that seemed to swallow the sun. The lobby was all polished stone and screens flashing Horizon's latest gadgets, smart glasses, AI drones, things Aisha had only seen in tech blogs. A receptionist with a tight smile led her to an elevator that hummed upward, her reflection in its steel doors looking small and out of place. When the doors opened, Lang waited, his suit sharp as a blade, his smile calculated. Aisha, he said, extending a hand. Welcome to the future. She shook his hand, her grip steadier than she felt. Thanks for seeing me, she said, her voice even despite the butterflies in her chest. Lang led her through a maze of glass-walled offices, where engineers in headsets typed at sleek monitors. Aisha glimpsed robots, polished, precise, nothing like Nexus's scrappy charm. Her confidence wavered, but she kept her chin up, following Lang to his office. The space was massive, with a view of Lake Michigan that made Aisha's breath catch. A single desk held a tablet, and a wall of screens flickered with data, stock charts, code snippets, a 3D model of a robot that looked unsettlingly like Nexus. "Sit," Lang said, gesturing to a chair. Aisha set Nexus's bag at her feet and sat, her hands clasped to hide their shake. "Let's cut to it," Lang said, leaning back in his chair, his eyes locked on hers. "Nexus is extraordinary. Your repair tech, the adaptive learning. It's not just high school science fair stuff. It's game-changing. I'm offering you $1 million for the rights, plus a spot on my team. You'd work here, learn, grow. Maybe run this place one day." Aisha's heart skipped. A job at Horizon? It was beyond anything she'd imagined. But the offer felt like a velvet cage, its bars hidden but real. "Why Nexus?" she asked, her voice steady. "You've got robots here that make mine look like a toy." Lang's smile was sharp, like he'd expected the question. "Because Nexus is raw. You built it with nothing, no funding, no lab, just talent. That's rare. And your repair system? It could transform industries, manufacturing, tech, even medicine. I see billions in it. You could be part of that." Aisha's mind reeled. Billions? She'd built Nexus to fix her mom's old radio, to prove she could do something big. Now it was a global cash cow? She glanced at Nexus's bag, its presence anchoring her. "If I sell, what happens to Nexus?" she asked. "We'd own the intellectual property," Lang said, his tone casual but precise. "You get the million, we develop it further. You'd have input, of course, if you join us." Aisha's jaw tightened. Input wasn't control. She pictured Nexus stripped down, rebuilt into something cold, corporate. "I need to think about it," she said, meeting his gaze. "This is a lot." Lang's eyes narrowed, a flicker of impatience breaking his calm. "Of course. Take a few days. But don't wait too long. Opportunities like this vanish." He stood, signaling the end. "My team will email you the contract. Read it." The driver took Aisha home, the sedan's silence letting her thoughts spiral. Back in Westfield, the skyscrapers felt like a fever dream. Jamal was waiting on her stoop, tossing a basketball. "You ditched school?" he asked, eyebrow raised. "Spill." Aisha hesitated, then told him. "Lang, the million, the job offer." Jamal's jaw dropped. "$1 million? Aisha, that's life-changing. You could buy a house, go to MIT, whatever." But his excitement dimmed as he saw her face. "Why you stressing?" "It doesn't feel right," she said, sitting beside him. "They want all of Nexus, my code, my designs, everything. And Lang's pushing hard, like he's hiding something." She pulled out her phone, showing him the contract email that had just arrived. "Look at this. It's like signing my soul away." Jamal skimmed it, his brow furrowing. "Yeah, this is heavy. Full IP transfer. That's not a sale, that's a takeover." "What's your gut saying?" "That I'm in over my head," Aisha admitted. "But I can't just walk away. $1 million could fix everything for me and Mom." "What do I do, Jay?" Jamal spun the ball, thinking. "You built Nexus from nothing. You're not some kid they can push around. Get a lawyer, maybe. Or talk to your mom. Don't let Lang rush you." Aisha nodded, but the choice loomed like a storm. That night, she lay awake, the contract's words swimming in her mind. Horizon Tech retains all rights in perpetuity. Nexus wouldn't be hers anymore. As she drifted toward sleep, her phone pinged, an email from Lang. "Aisha, let's meet tomorrow. Bring Nexus. I have something to show you." Attached was a video clip, grainy but clear, a robot, Nexus's frame but with glowing red eyes, moving with lethal precision. Aisha's breath caught. This wasn't her robot. This was something else, something dangerous. Lang's game was bigger than she'd thought, and she was already caught in its web. Aisha's fingers hovered over her phone, the screen glowing with Victor Lang's email. The photo of the prototype, a sleek, militarized version of Nexus with glowing red eyes, stared back at her, cold and unfamiliar. Her stomach churned. This wasn't her Nexus, the robot she'd built to fix broken radios and prove her worth. This was something else, something that felt wrong. She dropped the phone onto her bed, her heart pounding. The email's words echoed. "Time's running out. Meet me tomorrow. Bring Nexus. Let's finalize this." She glanced at Nexus's duffel bag in the corner of her room, its frayed straps a reminder of how far she'd come. The science fair felt like a lifetime ago, its jeers and rejections overshadowed by Lang's million-dollar offer. But the more she learned, the heavier the offer felt. Aisha grabbed her jacket and slipped out of the house, needing air, needing clarity. The Westfield night was sharp, the streetlights flickering as she headed for the one place she could think, the junkyard. The junkyard was her sanctuary, a maze of rusted cars and discarded appliances where she'd scavenged Nexus's parts. She climbed onto the hood of an old Chevy, the metal cold under her palms, and stared at the stars peeking through Chicago's smog. "What am I doing?" she muttered, her breath fogging in the air. Selling Nexus could change everything. Pay the bills, get her mom out of debt, maybe even buy a ticket out of Westfield. But that prototype, it wasn't just a redesign. It felt like a betrayal of everything Nexus stood for. Her phone buzzed, and she flinched. Another text from Jamal. "You okay? You've been ghosting me." Aisha sighed, typing back, "At the junkyard. Need to think. Come if you're up." She didn't expect him to show. Jamal hated the junkyard's creepy vibe, but 10 minutes later, she heard sneakers crunching on gravel. "Aisha, you gotta stop hanging out in this horror movie set," Jamal called, his voice cutting through the dark. He climbed onto the Chevy beside her, his basketball jacket zipped to his chin. "What's good? You look like you saw a ghost." Aisha handed him her phone, the prototype's photo still open. "Look at this. Lang sent it. That's what they want to turn Nexus into." Jamal's eyes widened as he scrolled. "Yo, this looks like something from a war game. What's with the red eyes? Your Nexus is chill, not this." He handed the phone back, his brow furrowed. "You think they're, like, building killer robots or something?" Aisha laughed, but it came out hollow. "I don't know, but it's not what I built Nexus for. I wanted it to help people, fix stuff, you know? Not whatever this is." She pulled her knees to her chest, the weight of the decision pressing down. "Lang wants me to meet him tomorrow. Sign the contract. Take the million." Jamal whistled low. $1 million, Aisha. That's college, a new house, all of it. But you don't sound hyped. What's your gut saying?" "My gut's screaming," she admitted. "That contract, it's not just selling Nexus. They get everything. All my code, my designs, any upgrades I make. And that prototype, it's like they're already changing it without me." She shook her head, her braids brushing her shoulders. "But if I say no, what then? Back to Westfield, back to nothing?" Jamal leaned back, staring at the sky. "You're not nothing, Aisha. You built a robot from scraps. You're a genius. If this Lang dude wants Nexus, others will too. You don't gotta jump at the first offer." Aisha wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at her. Horizon Tech wasn't just any company. They were giants, with billions in revenue and a grip on the AI market. Saying no to Victor Lang felt like saying no to the future. "I don't know if I'm ready to fight that fight," she said softly. "This is bigger than me." "Nah," Jamal said, nudging her shoulder. "It's exactly your size. You've been fighting bigger things your whole life. Marcus, the judges, this whole messed up system. You got this." Aisha managed a small smile, his words warming her despite the cold. "Thanks, Jay. But I gotta figure out what Lang's really after. That prototype, it's not just a design. It's a clue." They sat in silence for a while, the junkyard's quiet broken only by distant sirens. Aisha's mind raced, piecing together what she knew. Lang's interest in Nexus, the rushed timeline, the militarized prototype, it all pointed to something bigger, something Horizon didn't want her to see. She needed answers, and tomorrow's meeting was her chance to get them. The next morning, Aisha stood outside Horizon Tech's downtown headquarters, Nexus's bag slung over her shoulder. The skyscraper loomed, its glass facade reflecting the gray Chicago sky. She'd barely slept, her dreams haunted by red-eyed robots and Lang's calculating smile. Her mom had been at work when she left, sparing Aisha the task of explaining why she was skipping school again. She took a deep breath and stepped inside. The lobby was as intimidating as before, all marble and flashing screens. The receptionist waved her to the elevator, and soon Aisha was back in Lang's office, the Lake Michigan view as breathtaking as it was disorienting. Lang stood by the window, his suit pristine, his expression unreadable. "Aisha," he said, turning with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I'm glad you came. Nexus is with you, I presume." She nodded, setting the bag on the floor, but keeping it close. "Yeah, but I've got questions before we talk contracts." Lang's smile tightened. but he gestured to a chair. Of course. Ask away. Aisha sat, her hands clasped to hide their trembling. That prototype you sent. The one with the red eyes. What's it for? Nexus fixes things. That thing looks like it breaks them. Lang's laugh was smooth, practiced, perceptive. The prototype is a concept, nothing more. We're exploring applications for Nexus's repair tech, security, industrial use, maybe defense. Your code is versatile, Aisha. It could do a lot of good. Defense. Aisha's voice sharpened. Like weapons? That's not what I built Nexus for. Lang leaned forward, his gaze intense. The world's not as simple as fixing radios, Aisha. Technology evolves. Your robot could save lives, protect soldiers, secure borders. Isn't that worth more than a junkyard project? Aisha's jaw clenched. Junkyard project. The word stung, echoing the science fair's taunts. Nexus isn't junk, she said, her voice low but firm. And I'm not signing anything until I know exactly what you're doing with it. Lang's eyes narrowed, a flicker of impatience breaking his calm. You're young, Aisha, so I'll be clear. Opportunities like this don't come twice. $1 million, a job at Horizon. That's a future most kids your age can't imagine. Say no, and you're back to Westfield, with nothing but a robot no one else will touch. The threat hung in the air, cold and heavy. Aisha's heart pounded, but she held his gaze. Maybe, but Nexus is mine, and I'm not selling my soul to you. Lang leaned back, his expression shifting to something like respect or calculation. You've got fire. I like that. Take the weekend to think it over. But Monday, I need an answer. And I don't like being kept waiting. The meeting ended abruptly, Lang dismissing her with a wave. Aisha rode the elevator down, her mind a storm. She'd stood up to him, but at what cost? As she stepped into the lobby, a woman approached, mid-30s, with a sharp blazer and a tablet under her arm. Aisha Thompson, she asked, her voice low. Aisha tensed. Yeah. Who are you? Elena Carter. The woman said, glancing over her shoulder. I work for Horizon. Used to, anyway. We need to talk. Somewhere private. Aisha's instincts screamed caution, but Elena's eyes held an urgency that felt real. Why should I trust you? Aisha asked. Because I know what Horizon's doing with Nexus, Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. And if you sign that contract, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Aisha's breath caught. She looked at Nexus's bag, then back at Elena. There's a diner across the street. 5 minutes. You talk, I listen. Elena nodded, and they left the lobby, the skyscraper's shadow looming behind them. Aisha didn't know what she was walking into, but one thing was clear. The truth about Nexus was bigger than she'd imagined, and she was running out of time to uncover it. Aisha slid into a booth at the diner across from Horizon Tech, the vinyl seat creaking under her weight. The place smelled of burnt coffee and greasy fries, its neon sign buzzing faintly in the window. She kept Nexus's duffel bag close, one hand resting on its strap as Elena Carter sat opposite her. The woman's sharp blazer and sleek tablet looked out of place against the diner's faded checkered floor, but her eyes, wary, intense, told Aisha this wasn't a casual chat. You've got 5 minutes, Aisha said, her voice low but firm. Tell me why I should listen to you. Elena glanced at the door, then leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. I was Horizon's lead engineer on their AI division until 6 months ago. I know what Victor Lang's planning with your robot, and it's not what he's selling you. Aisha's pulse quickened, but she kept her face neutral. He said Nexus could be used for security, maybe defense. Save lives. You saying he's lying? Elena's lips pressed into a thin line. Not lying. Omitting. Horizon's defense contracts aren't about saving lives, they're about control. Your robot's repair tech? They're adapting it for autonomous systems. Drones, surveillance bots, maybe worse. That prototype you saw? It's just the start. Aisha's stomach twisted, the image of the red-eyed Nexus flashing in her mind. Worse how? She asked, her voice steady despite the dread creeping in. Elena hesitated, her fingers tightening around her tablet. I can't say more here. Too many eyes. But I've seen the schematics, Aisha. They're not building helpers, they're building weapons. And your code is the key. Aisha's hand tightened on Nexus's bag. Her code, the lines she'd written in her garage at 3 a.m., pieced together from library books and sheer will. It was meant to fix things, not destroy them. Why tell me this? she asked, searching Elena's face. You don't know me. What's in it for you? Elena's expression softened, but only for a moment. I left Horizon because I couldn't stomach what they're doing. They buried my research, silenced my warnings. You're a kid, Aisha, but you built something extraordinary. If you sign that contract, they'll take Nexus and twist it into something you'll hate. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't warn you. Aisha studied her, torn between trust and suspicion. Elena's words rang true, but Westfield had taught her to question anyone offering help. If you're legit, why not go public? Leak it to the news, blow the whistle. Elena's laugh was bitter. You think it's that easy? Horizon's got lawyers, connections, power. They'd bury me, and anyone who listened. I'm taking a risk just talking to you. She slid a burner phone across the table, its screen blank. Take this. Untraceable. If you want proof, text the number saved in it. I'll get you what I have. Aisha stared at the phone, its weight heavier than it should have been. And if I don't, then sign Lang's contract, Elena said, her voice hard. Take the $1 million. But don't say I didn't warn you. She stood, pulling her blazer tight. I've got to go. Watch your back, Aisha. Horizon doesn't like loose ends. Before Aisha could respond, Elena was gone, the diner's bell jingling as the door swung shut. Aisha sat frozen, the burner phone cold in her hand. Her coffee sat untouched, steam curling into the air. She wanted to call Jamal, her mom, anyone. But who'd believe this? A tech conspiracy, a shady ex-engineer, her robot at the center of it all? It sounded like a bad sci-fi flick. She stuffed the phone into her pocket and left the diner, Nexus's bag slung over her shoulder. The Chicago wind bit at her face as she walked, her mind racing. Elena's warning echoed Lang's threat. Opportunities like this don't come twice. But now, saying yes felt like stepping into a trap, and saying no meant walking away from a future she'd barely dared to dream. Back in Westfield, Aisha found Jamal shooting hoops at the cracked court near her house. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange as he dribbled, his breath puffing in the cold. Yo, you look like you're carrying the world, he called, tossing her the ball. What happened with Lang? Aisha caught the ball, spinning it in her hands. It's not just Lang anymore. She told him everything. The meeting, the prototype, Elena's warning. Jamal listened, his usual grin gone, his eyes narrowing as she mentioned the burner phone. Hold up, he said, taking the ball back. This lady just hands you a sketchy phone and says Horizon's building robot soldiers? Aisha, that's next level. You sure she's not playing you? I don't know. Aisha admitted, sitting on the court's edge. But she knew about Nexus's code, stuff I didn't tell Lang. And that prototype, it's not right, Jay. Nexus is supposed to help, not hurt. Jamal dribbled slowly, thinking. Okay, say she's telling the truth. What's your move? You gonna text that number, see what she's got? Aisha pulled the burner phone from her pocket, its weight grounding her. Maybe. But if Horizon's as shady as she says, poking around could get messy. Like, dangerous messy. Jamal stopped dribbling, his voice low. You're not in this alone, Aisha. I got your back. But you gotta decide what Nexus is worth. $1 million, or keeping it yours. Aisha nodded, but the choice felt impossible. She thought of her mom, working herself to the bone, and the eviction notice still taped to their door. $1 million could fix that. But if Elena was right, signing meant betraying Nexus and herself. That night, Aisha sat at her kitchen table, the burner phone beside Nexus's bag. Her mom was home, cooking spaghetti, the smell filling the small house. Renee noticed Aisha's silence, setting a plate in front of her. Talk to me, baby, she said, sitting across from her. You've been somewhere else all week. Aisha hesitated, then spilled it all. Lang's offer, the prototype, Elena's warning. Renee listened, her hands still, her eyes sharp. When Aisha finished, Renee leaned back, her voice steady but fierce. Aisha, you built that robot with your heart and your hands. No money's worth losing that. But you're in deep now. If this company's playing games, you need to be smarter than them. Smarter how? Aisha asked, her voice small. I'm just a kid from Westfield. Renee reached across the table, squeezing her hand. You're not just anything. You're my daughter, and you're brilliant. If this Elena's got proof, get it. But don't trust her, or Lang, until you know the truth. Aisha nodded, her mom's words anchoring her. After dinner, she texted the number on the burner phone. Show me the proof. Her finger hovered over the send button, her heart pounding. She hit it, the message vanishing into the void. Minutes later, the phone buzzed. A single text. Meet me tomorrow, 10 p.m., old warehouse on 47th and Ashland. Come alone. Bring Nexus. Aisha's breath caught. The address was in a rough part of town, abandoned and eerie. Going alone felt like walking into a trap, but backing out meant staying in the dark. She didn't sleep. The next day dragged, her nerves fraying as she went through the motions at school. Marcus's taunts, still dreaming of millions, ghetto girl. Barely registered. All she could think about was the warehouse, Elena, and what she'd find. At 9:30 p.m., Aisha slipped out, Nexus's bag heavy on her shoulder. She told her mom she was studying at Jamal's, hating the lie, but knowing Renee would stop her. The bus to 47th Street was nearly empty, its fluorescent lights buzzing as Westfield streets gave way to darker, emptier ones. The warehouse loomed ahead, a hulking shadow of cracked concrete and broken windows. Aisha stepped off the bus, her sneakers crunching on gravel. The air was thick with the smell of oil and decay. She checked the burner phone, no new messages. Her heart hammered as she approached the warehouse, its rusted door ajar. Elena, she called, her voice echoing. A figure stepped from the shadows, not Elena, but a man, tall and broad, his face half hidden by a hood. You Aisha? He asked, his voice rough. Aisha froze, her hand tightening on Nexus's bag. Where's Elena? The man smirked, stepping closer. She's not coming. But you brought the robot, right? Hand it over, and we won't have a problem. Aisha's blood ran cold. This wasn't a meeting, it was a setup. She backed away, her mind racing. Stay back, she said, her voice shaking but firm. I'm not giving you anything. The man laughed, pulling something from his jacket, a glint of metal in the moonlight. Wrong answer, kid. Aisha turned to run, her heart in her throat, but the warehouse door slammed shut behind her, another figure blocking her path. She was trapped, Nexus's weight pulling her down, and the truth hit hard. She'd walked right into Horizon's game, and now she might not walk out. Aisha's heart slammed against her ribs as she backed away from the man with the glinting metal in his hand. The warehouse's air was thick, reeking of rust and stale oil, and the faint moonlight spilling through broken windows cast jagged shadows across the concrete floor. Nexus's duffel bag felt like an anchor on her shoulder, its weight pulling her down as she scanned for an escape. The second figure, a wiry man with a scar across his cheek, stood by the door, his smirk cold and unyielding. Hand over the robot, kid, the first man said, stepping closer. His voice was gravelly, his eyes hidden under the hood. The metal in his hand was a knife, its blade catching the dim light. We don't want to hurt you. Just give us what we came for. Aisha's mouth went dry, but she forced her voice to stay steady. I don't know who you are, but you're not getting Nexus. Back off. The scarred man laughed, a sharp bark that echoed in the empty space. Tough talk for a little girl. You think you're in a movie? Nobody's coming to save you. Aisha's mind raced. Elena had set her up, or someone had set Elena up. Either way, she was alone, trapped in a warehouse with two thugs who knew about Nexus. Her eyes darted around, searching for anything, a weapon, a gap, a chance. The warehouse was a maze of crates and rusted machinery, but the door was blocked, and the windows were too high. She needed time, a plan. Who sent you? She asked, stalling. Her hand slipped into her jacket pocket, brushing the burner phone. If she could text Jamal, maybe he'd call for help. Was it Elena? Or Lang? The hooded man tilted his head, like a predator sizing up prey. You asked too many questions. Last chance. Give us the bag, or we take it. Aisha's fingers closed around the phone, her thumb fumbling to unlock it. She kept her eyes on the men, her voice sharp. You think I'm stupid? You're not random thieves. Horizon sent you, didn't they? What's Nexus worth to them? The scarred man's smirk faltered, just for a second, and Aisha caught it. She was right. Horizon was behind this. But before she could push further, the hooded man lunged, his knife flashing. Aisha dodged, stumbling over a crate, the duffel bag swinging wildly. She hit the ground hard, pain shooting through her elbow, but she scrambled to her feet, clutching Nexus. Stop playing games, the scarred man shouted, moving to cut her off. Aisha darted behind a stack of crates, her breath ragged. The phone slipped from her pocket, clattering to the floor. She cursed under her breath, diving for it. But the hooded man was faster, his boot slamming down inches from her hand. Enough, he growled, grabbing her jacket and yanking her up. Aisha swung the duffel bag, catching him in the chest. He staggered, surprised, and she broke free, sprinting toward a rusted staircase in the corner. Her sneakers pounded the concrete, the men's shouts echoing behind her. The staircase led to a catwalk, its metal groaning under her weight. Aisha's lungs burned as she climbed, the duffel bag bouncing against her hip. From above, she saw the warehouse's layout, crates, machinery, a side exit half hidden by debris. If she could reach it, she might make it to the street. But the catwalk shook as the scarred man followed, his steps heavy and fast. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," he called, his voice laced with irritation. Aisha didn't answer, her focus on the exit. She reached the end of the catwalk, sliding down a ladder to the floor. The side exit was close, its door ajar, but as she ran, a third figure stepped from the shadows, a woman, her face obscured by a scarf. Aisha froze, her hope crumbling. "Elena?" she asked, her voice shaking. The woman pulled down the scarf, revealing a face Aisha didn't recognize. Older, with sharp cheekbones and cold eyes. "Not Elena," she said, her voice clipped. "You're in over your head, kid. Give me the robot, and you walk away." Aisha's chest tightened. 3 against 1, no way out. But something in her snapped. Anger, defiance, the same fire that had kept her going through the science fair's jeers. "Nexus is mine," she said, her voice low and fierce. "You want it? Come take it." The woman's eyes narrowed, but before she could move, a loud crash echoed from the main door. The hooded man spun, cursing. "What the hell?" "Aisha," a familiar voice shouted. "Jamal." Relief flooded her, but it was short-lived. The scarred man charged toward the noise, and Aisha seized her chance. She bolted for the side exit, shoving past the woman, who grabbed at her bag. Aisha twisted free, the strap tearing, and burst into the night. The cold air hit her like a slap, but she kept running, her sneakers pounding the gravel. Behind her, shouts and footsteps followed, but Jamal's voice cut through again. "Aisha, this way." She spotted him near a chain-link fence, waving frantically. He'd brought his cousin's beat-up sedan, its engine running. Aisha dove into the passenger seat, slamming the door as Jamal hit the gas. The car lurched forward, tires screeching as they peeled away from the warehouse. "You okay?" Jamal asked, his eyes darting between her and the road. "No." Aisha gasped, clutching Nexus's bag. Her elbow throbbed, and her jacket was torn, but she was alive. "How'd you find me?" "You didn't answer my texts," Jamal said, swerving onto a main road. "Got worried. Checked your phone's location. Saw you were in the middle of nowhere. Figured you were in trouble." Aisha managed a shaky laugh. "You're a creep, but I'm glad." Jamal grinned, but it faded fast. "Who were those guys? And that lady? What's going on, Aisha?" She leaned back, her breath slowing. "Horizon. They want Nexus, bad. Elena set me up, or someone used her name. I don't know who to trust anymore." Jamal glanced at her, his voice serious. "You trust me, right?" Aisha nodded, her throat tight. "Always." They drove in silence, the city lights blurring past. Aisha's mind churned. The warehouse ambush proved Elena's warning. Horizon was playing dirty. But who was the woman? And where was Elena? She pulled the burner phone from her pocket, its screen cracked, but working. No new messages. She typed, "Who set me up? Where are you?" and hit send, her hands trembling. Back home, Aisha locked her door, Nexus's bag hidden under her bed. Her mom was asleep, sparing her a lecture, but Aisha knew she couldn't keep lying. She sat at her desk, staring at the burner phone, willing it to buzz. When it finally did, her heart skipped. A text, "I didn't set you up. Horizon's watching me. Meet me tomorrow, 8 a.m., Grant Park. No bag. Come alone." Aisha's stomach knotted. Another meeting, another risk. But she needed answers, and Elena, if it was really her, was her only lead. She texted Jamal, "Need you tomorrow morning. Grant Park. Backup, not close." "Okay." He replied instantly, "Got you." The next morning, Aisha stood by Grant Park's Buckingham Fountain, the early sun glinting off the water. She'd left Nexus at home, hidden in her closet, but her nerves were raw. Jamal was nearby, blending into the joggers and tourists, his hoodie up. Aisha scanned the crowd, her eyes landing on a woman approaching. Elena, her blazer swapped for a plain jacket, her face tense. "You came," Elena said, stopping a few feet away. "I wasn't sure you would." "Almost didn't," Aisha said, her voice hard. "Last night, I nearly got jumped. Your text sent me to that warehouse." "Explain." Elena's eyes widened, genuine fear flickering. "That wasn't me. I swear. Someone's intercepting my messages. Horizon's got people everywhere." She stepped closer, her voice dropping. "I have proof now, files, schematics. They're turning Nexus into a weapon, Aisha. Autonomous, lethal. I can show you, but we need to move fast." Aisha's heart raced. "Show me now." Elena hesitated, then pulled a USB drive from her pocket. "This is everything. But if you take it, you're a target. More than you already are." Aisha stared at the drive, its weight heavier than the $1 million Lang offered. "Why me?" she asked, echoing her question to Lang. "Why trust a kid?" Elena's smile was small, sad. "Because you're not just a kid. You built Nexus. You've got a fire Horizon can't buy. And I'm done running." Aisha took the drive, her fingers closing around it. "What now?" "Hide it," Elena said. "Study it. Then decide, expose Horizon or walk away. But choose fast. They're coming for you." As Elena vanished into the crowd, Aisha slipped the drive into her pocket, her mind spinning. She signaled Jamal, and they left the park, the USB a ticking bomb against her heart. Horizon was closing in, and Aisha was out of time to play it safe. Aisha's bedroom felt smaller than ever, the walls closing in as she sat cross-legged on her bed, the USB drive from Elena clutched in her hand. The cracked screen of her thrift store laptop glowed, casting shadows across Nexus's duffel bag, still hidden under her bed. Jamal sprawled on the floor, his back against the wall, his usual easy grin replaced by a tense frown. The USB drive was a grenade, and they both knew it. Whatever was on it could either save Aisha or bury her. "You sure about this?" Jamal asked, his voice low to avoid waking Aisha's mom, who was asleep after another double shift. "That thing could be a virus, or a tracker, or who knows what. Elena's already got you jumped once." "She didn't set me up," Aisha said, though doubt lingered. "Someone hacked her messages. And this," she held up the drive, its plastic casing cheap but heavy with promise. "This is my only shot to know what Horizon's doing with Nexus." Jamal leaned forward, his eyes serious. "Aisha, you're in deep. Thugs in a warehouse, shady ex-engineers, a CEO throwing millions at you? This ain't just about your robot anymore. You open that drive, there's no going back." Aisha's throat tightened, but she nodded. "I know, but I can't run from this. Nexus is mine, Jay. If they're turning it into something twisted, I need to stop them." Jamal sighed, rubbing his neck. "All right, but if this goes south, I'm dragging you out of here, Westfield or not. Plug it in." Aisha inserted the USB into her laptop, her pulse racing. The screen flickered, a folder popping up labeled Horizon_confidential. She glanced at Jamal, who gave a tight nod, and clicked it open. Files spilled across the screen, PDFs, blueprints, video clips, all stamped with Horizon Tech's logo. Aisha's breath caught as she scanned the titles. Project Sentinel, Autonomous Repair Integration, Weaponized AI Protocols, Nexus Core Analysis. Sentinel, Jamal muttered, scooting closer. "That sounds like some sci-fi villain crap." Aisha opened the first PDF, a technical report. Her eyes skimmed the jargon, catching phrases like self-sustaining combat units and adaptive targeting systems. The schematics showed a robot eerily like Nexus, but bulkier, armed with what looked like tasers and sensors for tracking. A chill ran down her spine. "They're not just making drones," she whispered. "They're building soldiers." Jamal's jaw clenched. "Keep going. What's the video?" Aisha clicked a file labeled Sentinel_test_03. The screen filled with grainy footage of a lab, where a robot, Nexus's frame but with red eyes and reinforced armor, moved through an obstacle course. A voiceover, clinical and detached, narrated, "Sentinel Unit 03 demonstrates enhanced repair capabilities, adapting to simulated battle damage in real time." The robot fixed a broken panel, then pivoted, firing a non-lethal round at a target with pinpoint accuracy. The video ended with a Horizon logo and a date, 2 weeks ago. Aisha's hands shook as she closed the video. "This is my code," she said, her voice barely audible. They're using my repair tech to make weapons. Elena wasn't lying. Jamal stood, pacing the small room. Okay, this is bad. Like, government conspiracy bad. What's the plan? You can't just sit on this. Aisha opened another file, a memo from Victor Lang to Horizon's board. Her eyes widened as she read aloud. Project Sentinel leverages the Nexus core for unparalleled autonomy. With defense contracts secured, we project $10 billion in revenue by 2026. The Thompson IP is critical. Acquisition must be finalized or neutralized. She stopped, her voice catching. Neutralized? What does that mean? Jamal froze. It means you're a problem, Aisha. You and Nexus. They want your robot, and if you don't play ball, they'll, I don't know, make you disappear. Aisha's stomach churned. The warehouse ambush flashed in her mind. The knife, the woman's cold eyes. Horizon wasn't just after Nexus. They were after her. She slammed the laptop shut, her breath ragged. I need to talk to Elena again. She's got to know what to do with this. You trust her? Jamal asked, his voice sharp. After everything? No, Aisha admitted. But she risked a lot to get me this. I don't have anyone else. She grabbed the burner phone, typing, saw the files. Sentinel is real. What now? Her finger hovered over send, but she hesitated, glancing at Jamal. If I keep pushing, it's not just me in danger. You, my mom. I can't let this touch you guys. Jamal crossed his arms, his expression fierce. Don't start that. I'm in this, Aisha. Your mom would be too if she knew. We're not bailing on you. Aisha's eyes stung, but she blinked it away, hitting send. The phone buzzed almost instantly. Destroy the drive. Meet me tomorrow, noon, Southside Library. No phones, no bag. I'll explain. Aisha read it aloud, her voice steadying. Destroy it? After all this? Jamal shook his head. Nah, that's SUS. You've got proof now, real proof. Destroying it's like giving up. You gotta keep it, at least until you know Elena's game. Aisha nodded, slipping the drive into her pocket. I'll copy it first. If anything happens to me, it's not going down with me. She spent the next hour backing up the files to a cloud account, her fingers flying over the keyboard. By the time she finished, dawn was breaking, the sky outside her window a dull gray. Her mom's voice called from the kitchen. Aisha, you up already? Come eat. Aisha exchanged a look with Jamal, who whispered, You telling her? Not yet, Aisha said, her voice low. She'll lock me in my room if she knows about the warehouse. She stood, smoothing her hoodie, and joined her mom, Jamal trailing behind. Renee was at the stove, flipping pancakes, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled from the night shift. You two look like you pulled an all-nighter, she said, eyeing them. What's going on? Aisha forced a smile, grabbing a plate. Just school stuff. Big project. Renee's gaze lingered, sharp and knowing. Don't lie to me, Aisha. You've been jumpy all week. If you're in trouble, you tell me. Aisha's chest tightened, but she held her mom's stare. I'm okay, Mom. Promise. Just figuring things out. Renee sighed, setting a pancake on Aisha's plate. You're too much like me, keeping it all inside. But I'm here, baby. Always. Aisha nodded, guilt gnawing at her. She ate in silence, Jamal making small talk to fill the gap. After breakfast, he headed home, promising to meet her at the library. Aisha spent the morning at school, her mind elsewhere. Marcus's usual taunts, still waiting for that million, junkyard girl, bounced off her. She was too focused on Elena, the drive, and what neutralized might mean. At noon, Aisha reached the Southside Library, a squat brick building with peeling paint. She'd left Nexus and the burner phone at home, hidden in her closet, but the USB's weight in her pocket felt like a target on her back. The library was quiet, its shelves smelling of old paper and dust. Aisha scanned the room, spotting Elena in a corner, hunched over a book, her plain jacket blending in. You're late, Elena said as Aisha approached, her voice low. She closed the book, her eyes darting to the door. Did you destroy the drive? No, Aisha said, sitting across from her. And I'm not going to. Those files prove Horizon's building weapons with my code. I need to know what to do with them. Elena's face tightened. You don't get it, Aisha. Keeping that drive makes you a threat. Horizon's already watching you. Your phone, your house. They know you met me. Aisha's blood ran cold. Watching me? How? Trackers, bugs, hacked cameras, Elena said, her voice urgent. They're not a startup. They're a machine. I've been dodging them for months. You need to disappear. Take Nexus, leave Chicago, start over. Aisha laughed, sharp and bitter. Disappear? I've got a mom, a life. I'm not running. If Horizon's this bad, we expose them. Take the files public. Elena shook her head, her voice a hiss. You think the news will touch this? Horizon's got politicians, military contracts. You go public, they'll crush you. Your only shot is to lay low. Aisha leaned forward, her voice fierce. Then why give me the drive? Why warn me if I can't fight? Elena's eyes softened, but only for a moment. Because I thought you'd be smart enough to run. But you're stubborn, like I was. She slid a folded paper across the table. This is a contact, a journalist, off the grid. If you're set on fighting, she might help. But it's your funeral. Aisha took the paper, her fingers trembling. Before she could ask more, Elena stood, pulling her hood up. Don't contact me again. I'm out. She walked away, disappearing between the shelves. Aisha unfolded the paper, finding a name, Lila Monroe, and an email address. Her heart pounded as she pocketed it, the library's quiet pressing in. She'd come for answers, but now she had a choice. Run or fight. As she left the library, Jamal waiting outside, she knew one thing. Horizon wasn't getting Nexus, or her, without a war. Aisha's sneakers scuffed the cracked sidewalk as she left the Southside Library, the folded paper with Lila Monroe's name burning a hole in her pocket. Jamal walked beside her, his hoodie up, his eyes scanning the street like he expected Horizon's goons to jump out any second. The Chicago wind carried the faint wail of sirens, a reminder that Westfield was never far from trouble. Aisha's mind churned. Elena's warning, the USB's files, Horizon's threat to neutralize her. The word felt like a blade at her throat. You good? Jamal asked, his voice cutting through her thoughts. You've been quiet since the library. Aisha shook her head, her braids swaying. Not good, Jay. Elena says Horizon's watching me. My phone, my house, everything. And now I've got this. She tapped her pocket, where the USB and Lila's contact info Saturday, a journalist's name. Elena thinks she can help, but it sounds like a long shot. Jamal stopped walking, turning to face her. Hold up. They're spying on you? Like NSA-level stuff? Aisha, you gotta tell your mom. This ain't just about Nexus anymore. I know, Aisha said, her voice tight. But if I tell her, she'll freak. She's already working herself to death. I can't dump this on her until I've got a plan. She started walking again, her hands shoved in her pockets. I need to know if this Lila Monroe is legit. If she's not, I'm out of moves. Jamal caught up, his expression grim. All right, but you're not doing this alone. We check out this journalist together. What's the paper say? Aisha pulled out the folded note, glancing around to make sure no one was close. Just a name, Lila Monroe, and an email. No phone, no address. Elena said she's off the grid. She sighed, folding it back up. I'll email her tonight, see if she bites. But I'm not sending anything about the files until I know she's real. Jamal nodded, but his eyes were sharp. Smart. And keep that burner phone on you. If Horizon's watching, your regular one's probably compromised. Aisha's stomach twisted. She'd left the burner at home, hidden with Nexus. The idea of Horizon hacking her life, her texts, her calls, made her skin crawl. I'll grab it when I get back, she said. Thanks for having my back, Jay. Always, Jamal said, bumping her shoulder. But you owe me a burger for all this spy movie stress. Aisha managed a small laugh, but it faded fast. They parted ways at her street, Jamal heading home with a promise to check in later. Aisha slipped into her house, the quiet heavy. Her mom was at the hospital again, leaving a note on the fridge, dinner in the oven. Love you. Aisha's chest ached. She had to protect her mom, no matter what. In her room, Aisha locked the door and pulled out her laptop, the USB drive beside it. She grabbed the burner phone from her closet, checking for messages. Nothing. Using her regular phone, she created a new email account, anonymous and unlinked to her name, and typed a careful message to Lila Monroe. Got your name from a mutual friend. Have info on a tech company doing shady stuff. Can you help? Need to know you're real. She hit send, her heart pounding, then hid the USB and burner phone back in her closet, Nexus's bag a silent sentinel. Sleep was impossible. Aisha lay awake, the laptop's glow her only light as she refreshed her email. Around midnight, a reply came. I'm real. Meet me tomorrow, 3 p.m., Calumet Park, near the pier. No devices, no bag. Look for a red scarf. Aisha's pulse raced. Lila was quick, too quick, but Calumet Park was public, safer than a warehouse. She texted Jamal on the burner. Meeting tomorrow, 3 p.m., Calumet Park. Back up like last time. He replied, bet. I'll be there. The next day, Aisha barely focused at school. Marcus's taunts. Yo, robot girl, where's your million now? Were background noise. Her mind was on Lila, the files, and the creeping sense that Horizon was closing in. After school, she headed to Calumet Park, leaving Nexus and both phones at home to follow Lila's rules. The park was busy, families and joggers dotting the grassy paths, Lake Michigan's waves crashing against the pier. Jamal was somewhere nearby, blending in, his presence a small comfort. Aisha spotted a woman by the pier, a red scarf loose around her neck. She was in her 40s, with short locks and sharp eyes that scanned the crowd. Aisha approached, her hands in her pockets, the USB's absence a strange weight. Lila? She asked, keeping her voice low. The woman's gaze locked onto her, assessing. Aisha Thompson? Her voice was calm but firm, with a faint southern lilt. Aisha nodded, and Lila gestured to a bench. Sit. We don't have long. Aisha sat, her nerves taut. How do you know my name? I didn't tell you. Lila's lips twitched, not quite a smile. Your mutual friend filled me in. I've been tracking Horizon Tech for years. They're slippery, big money, bigger secrets. You've got something on them, don't you? Aisha hesitated, studying Lila's face. She seemed legit, but Elena's betrayal, or whoever's, had left Aisha wary. Maybe, but I need to know you're not working for them. Or anyone else. Lila leaned back, her eyes steady. Fair. I'm freelance. Used to write for the Tribune until I started digging into stories too hot for print. Horizon's one of them. They've got defense contracts, offshore accounts, and a knack for making problems disappear. I'm not their friend, Aisha. I'm their nightmare. Aisha's gut said Lila was telling the truth, but she stayed guarded. Okay, say I have proof, files showing they're turning my tech into weapons. What would you do with it? Lila's eyes lit up, but her voice stayed even. If it's solid, I'd verify it, find a platform that can't be silenced, independent outlets, maybe overseas. Horizon's got pull, but they're not untouchable. You'd need to be ready, though. Going public means painting a target on your back. Aisha's throat tightened. They're already targeting me. Sent people to steal my robot. Maybe worse. What's stopping them from coming after you? Nothing, Lila said bluntly. I've been dodging their goons for years. But I know how to hide, and I know how to hit back. Question is, are you ready to fight? Because once this breaks, there's no undoing it. Aisha's mind flashed to her mom, Jamal, the eviction notice still on their door. Fighting Horizon could cost everything, but letting them twist Nexus into a weapon was worse. I'm not running, she said, her voice firm. But I need time to think. How do I get you the files? Lila pulled a small card from her pocket, blank except for a QR code. Scan this with a clean device. It'll give you a secure drop link. Send the files when you're ready, but don't wait too long. If Horizon's after you, they're not slowing down. She stood, adjusting her scarf. Stay sharp, Aisha. You're playing a dangerous game. Lila walked away, blending into the park's crowd. Aisha pocketed the card, her heart racing. She signaled Jamal, who jogged over, his eyes wide. That her? What did she say? Aisha filled him in, keeping her voice low. Jamal whistled. A journalist who fights tech giants? She's either a hero or crazy. You trusting her? Not yet, Aisha said, heading for the bus stop. But she's my best shot. Back home, Aisha waited until her mom was asleep before pulling out her laptop and the burner phone. She scanned Lila's QR code, revealing a link to an encrypted Dropbox. The USB's files were still in her cloud account, safe for now. She hesitated, her finger hovering over the upload button. Sending the files meant no turning back. Horizon would know, and they'd come hard. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Stop digging, Aisha. Sign the contract, or your mom pays the price. Her blood ran cold. The message included a photo, her mom, walking out of the hospital, unaware she was being watched. Aisha's hands shook as she dropped the phone. Horizon wasn't just watching, they were threatening her family. She thought of Lila, the files, Nexus hidden under her bed. The fight was here, now, and running wasn't an option. She typed a reply on the burner. Leave my mom alone. You want Nexus? Come for me. She hit send, her defiance a spark in the dark. As she hid the phone, a noise came from outside, a low hum, like a drone. Aisha froze, her heart pounding. Horizon was closer than she'd thought, and the war for Nexus had just begun. Aisha's breath caught in her throat as the low hum outside her window grew louder, a mechanical whine that cut through the Westfield night. She dropped to the floor, her heart hammering, and crawled to the window, peering through the gap in her curtains. A small drone hovered across the street, its red light blinking like a predator's eye. It wasn't a toy. This was Horizon's tech, sleek and silent, watching her house. The photo of her mom flashed in her mind, the threat's words searing. Sign the contract, or your mom pays the price. She backed away, her hands shaking as she grabbed the burner phone from her desk. The drone's hum faded, but the fear didn't. Horizon wasn't just threatening. They were here, in her world, crossing lines she'd thought were safe. Aisha glanced at Nexus's duffel bag under her bed, then at her laptop, where Lila Monroe's encrypted Dropbox link waited. The USB's files, backed up in the cloud, were her weapon, but using them meant war. And now, her mom was in the crosshairs. Aisha typed a text to Jamal on the burner, drone outside my house. Horizon's watching. Need to talk now? She hit send, her fingers trembling, then slipped the phone into her pocket. She couldn't stay here, not with that thing outside. Grabbing her jacket, she crept downstairs, careful not to wake her mom. The house was dark, the oven's clock ticking like a countdown. Aisha stepped outside, locking the door behind her, and sprinted to the alley behind her street, where Jamal had agreed to meet. The alley smelled of trash and damp concrete, the shadows thick under flickering streetlights. Jamal was already there, leaning against a dumpster, his hoodie pulled tight. A drone? He whispered as she approached, his eyes wide. Aisha, this is straight-up espionage. You okay? No, Aisha said, her voice low but fierce. They sent me a picture of my mom leaving work. Jay said if I don't sign the contract, she's in danger. They're not playing. Jamal's jaw clenched, his hands balling into fists. They're threatening Renee? Nah, that's too far. We gotta hit back. Give those files to that journalist. Blow this wide open. Aisha paced, her sneakers crunching on gravel. I want to, but it's not that simple. Lila said going public puts a target on me, my mom, maybe even you. And if Horizon's watching my house, they'll know the second I make a move. She pulled out the burner phone, showing him the threat. Look at this. They're not bluffing. Jamal read the message, his face darkening. All right, first thing, you can't stay here. You and your mom need to lay low, maybe crash with my aunt for a few days. She's got a place in Englewood, off Horizon's radar. Aisha shook her head, her voice sharp. I'm not running, Jay. If I hide, they win. Nexus is mine, and I'm not letting them scare me into giving it up. Jamal grabbed her shoulders, his eyes intense. This ain't about giving up. It's about keeping you alive. You're no good to Nexus or your mom if Horizon's goons get you. We play smart, not scared. Aisha's chest tightened, his words cutting through her defiance. He was right. Her mom was the priority. But the thought of dragging Renee into this mess, of admitting how deep she'd fallen, made her stomach churn. I'll talk to her, she said finally. But I'm meeting Lila tomorrow. I'm sending those files. Horizon's not getting away with this. Jamal nodded, letting go. Cool. But I'm coming with you. No more solo missions. And we're checking your house for bugs, cameras, mics, whatever. If they're watching, we'll find it. They slipped back to Aisha's house, the street quiet except for distant dogs barking. The drone was gone, but Aisha's nerves were raw. Inside, they searched her room, moving silently to avoid waking Renee. Jamal checked her laptop, phone, even the outlets, his hands steady from years of fixing his brother's gaming consoles. Nothing obvious, he whispered, holding up a flashlight. But I'm no spy. We need someone who knows tech. Aisha thought of Elena, but contacting her again was too risky. I'll ask Lila tomorrow, she said. She might know how to sweep for bugs. She hid the burner phone and Nexus's bag in her closet, then sat on her bed, exhaustion hitting hard. Stay over, she told Jamal. Couch is yours. I don't want to be alone. Jamal nodded, grabbing a blanket from the living room. I got you, Aisha. Try to sleep. We'll figure this out. Sleep didn't come. Aisha lay awake, the threat replaying in her mind, the drones hum a ghost in her ears. By morning, her eyes were gritty, but her resolve was iron. She waited until her mom was up, sipping coffee at the kitchen table, before sitting across from her. Renee's nurse's scrubs were crisp, but her face was tired, lines deepening around her eyes. "Mom, we need to talk," Aisha said, her voice steady despite the knot in her chest. "It's about Nexus and Horizon Tech." Renee set her mug down, her gaze sharpening. "I knew something was wrong. You've been carrying the world, baby. Tell me everything." Aisha spilled it all. The science fair, Lang's offer, Elena's files, the warehouse, the drone, the threat. Her mom listened, her hands tightening around the mug, her face shifting from shock to fury. When Aisha showed her the photo of herself leaving the hospital, Renee's voice turned cold. "They're threatening my daughter? My family." "I'm sorry, Mom," Aisha said, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean for this to happen, but I can't let them take Nexus. It's not just a robot, it's me." Renee stood, pulling Aisha into a fierce hug. "You don't apologize for being brilliant. This isn't your fault. But you're not fighting alone anymore. We're getting you safe, and we're ending this." Aisha clung to her, tears stinging her eyes. "Jamal says we should stay with his aunt in Englewood. Just for a few days, until I figure out what to do with the files." Renee nodded, her jaw set. "Pack a bag. I'll call out of work. We're not staying here with drones lurking." She paused, her voice softening. "I'm proud of you, Aisha. But you're my baby, and I'm not losing you to some soulless company." By noon, Aisha and Jamal were on a bus to Calumet Park, Renee staying behind to pack and coordinate with Jamal's aunt. Aisha's burner phone was off, hidden with Nexus, and she'd left her regular phone at home, fearing trackers. The USB's files were still in the cloud, Lila's QR code card in her pocket. Her nerves buzzed as the bus rolled through Chicago's gray streets, the lake's edge glinting in the distance. At the park, Aisha spotted Lila by the pier, her red scarf stark against her dark coat. Jamal hung back, blending with a group of skateboarders, his eyes on Aisha. She approached Lila, her hands shoved in her pockets. "I've got the files," she said, keeping her voice low. "But Horizon's watching my house. They threaten my mom. I need to know how to hit them without losing everything." Lila's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp. "They're escalating. You're a bigger threat than I thought." She glanced around, then leaned in. "Send the files to my Dropbox tonight. I'll verify them, find a safe outlet, maybe a European site, out of Horizon's reach. But you need to disappear after. New city, new name." Aisha's stomach dropped. "I'm not abandoning my mom. Or my life. There's got to be another way." Lila's expression softened, but her voice stayed firm. "There isn't. Horizon's got billions and no morals. You expose them, they'll come for everyone you love. I'll protect your name in the story, but you can't stay in Chicago." Aisha's fists clenched. "Then help me fight. You said you've dodged them for years. Teach me how." Lila studied her, then nodded slowly. "All right, send the files, and I'll show you how to cover your tracks, burner phones, VPNs, the works. But it's not a game, Aisha. One slip, and they'll find you." Aisha took a deep breath, the lake's wind cold on her face. "I'm not slipping. I'll send the files tonight. What about my house? They might have bugs." Lila pulled a small device from her bag, a black box with a blinking light. "This detects basic surveillance, cameras, mics. Use it, but don't trust it completely. Horizon's tech is advanced." She handed it to Aisha, her eyes serious. "Good luck, kid. You're braver than most." Lila left, her scarf trailing as she vanished into the crowd. Jamal jogged over, his face tense. "We good? For now," Aisha said, pocketing the device. "Let's get to your aunt's. I've got work to do." That night, at Jamal's aunt's cramped Englewood apartment, Aisha sat at a wobbly table, her laptop open. Renee was in the next room, talking softly with Jamal's aunt. Aisha used a neighbor's Wi-Fi, routed through a VPN Lila had recommended, and uploaded the USB's files to the Dropbox. Her heart pounded as the progress bar filled, each second a step closer to war. When it finished, she exhaled, shutting the laptop. Jamal sat across from her, his voice low. "You did it. Now what?" Aisha leaned back, the surveillance detector beside her. "Now we wait. And we fight." Outside, a car slowed on the street, its headlights sweeping the window. Aisha's hand tightened on the detector, her pulse spiking. Horizon was out there, and the clock was ticking. Aisha's eyes burned from staring at the laptop screen, the dim light of Jamal's aunt's Englewood apartment casting long shadows across the room. The surveillance detector Lila had given her sat on the wobbly table, its green light steady, no bugs detected, for now. But the car that had slowed outside an hour ago lingered in her mind, its headlights a warning. She'd sent Horizon's files to Lila's Dropbox, a move that felt like lighting a fuse. Now, she waited, the silence heavier than Westfield's gunfire. Jamal sprawled on a threadbare couch, his phone dark to avoid tracking. "You keep checking that laptop like it's gonna bite," he said, his voice low to avoid waking his aunt and Aisha's mom in the next room. "Lila say anything yet?" Aisha refreshed her anonymous email, her heart sinking at the empty inbox. "Nothing. She said it'd take time to verify the files, find a publisher. But every second feels like Horizon's closing in." She leaned back, rubbing her temples. "What if I just started a war I can't win?" Jamal sat up, his eyes sharp. "You didn't start this, Aisha. Horizon did. The second they tried to steal Nexus. You're just fighting back. And you're not alone." Aisha managed a small smile, but it faded fast. Her mom's face, fierce but scared when she'd seen the photo of herself, haunted her. Renee was safe here, for now, but Aisha knew Horizon wouldn't stop. The threat to neutralize her wasn't empty, not after the warehouse ambush. She glanced at the burner phone, hidden in her jacket pocket, and fought the urge to text Elena. Too risky. Elena had vanished, and Aisha couldn't shake the feeling she was running out of allies. A soft knock came from the bedroom door, and Renee stepped out, her nurse's scrubs swapped for a borrowed sweatshirt. Her eyes, red from lack of sleep, locked onto Aisha. "You're still up," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Baby, you need rest. You can't fight if you're falling apart." "I'm fine, Mom," Aisha said, closing the laptop. "Just waiting for a response. The journalist I told you about, she's got the files. If she breaks the story, Horizon's done." Renee sat beside her, her hand warm on Aisha's arm. "And if she doesn't? Or if they come for us first?" "Aisha, I'm proud of you, but I'm scared. Not just for me, for you. You're carrying too much." Aisha's throat tightened, her mom's words cutting deep. "I know, but I can't let them take Nexus. It's not just a robot, it's everything I've fought for. If I give up, what's left?" Renee's eyes softened, but her voice stayed fierce. "You're left. Your heart, your brain, your fire. That's what matters. Nexus is amazing, but you're my daughter, and I won't lose you to some company's greed." Aisha nodded, tears prickling, but she pushed them back. "I'm not giving up, Mom. But I'll be careful. I promise." Renee squeezed her arm, then stood. "Get some sleep. Both of you." She glanced at Jamal, who nodded, and headed back to the bedroom, leaving the door cracked. Jamal waited until she was gone, then leaned forward. "Your mom's right, you know. You're running on fumes. What's the plan if Lila comes through?" Aisha opened the laptop again, her fingers hovering over the keys. "If the story breaks, Horizon's exposed. Defense contracts, weapons, all of it. They'll have to back off, right? Too much heat. But Lila said I'd need to disappear after. New city, new name." Jamal's face darkened. "You're not leaving Chicago, Aisha. This is home. We'll find another way." Aisha didn't answer. Leaving was unthinkable, but so was putting her mom and Jamal in more danger. She refreshed her email again, still nothing. "Let's check the detector," she said, needing to move. She grabbed the device, sweeping it around the room, its light staying green. "No bugs, but I don't trust it. Horizon's tech is way past this." Jamal stood, stretching. "We need a pro. Someone who can hack their systems, maybe. You got anyone like that?" Aisha's mind flashed to her old coding forums, where she'd learned Nexus's basics. There was a user, Ghostbite, who'd helped her debug code years ago, always anonymous but sharp. "Maybe," she said. "A hacker I used to chat with online. But I haven't talked to them in forever. No clue if they're even real." "Worth a shot," Jamal said. "Hit him up. We need all the help we can get." Aisha nodded, pulling up the forum on her laptop. She sent a private message to Ghostbite. "Need help. Big tech companies after my project. Can you trace surveillance? Urgent." She didn't expect a reply, but it felt like doing something. Morning came too fast, the apartment's thin curtains doing little to block the sun. Aisha's email pinged, and she jolted upright, her heart racing. It was Lila, files verified. Explosive. Secure to publisher. UK-based, out of Horizon's reach. Story drops tomorrow, 6 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Lay low. They'll come hard. Delete this. Aisha's breath caught. Tomorrow. The world would know about Project Sentinel, Nexus, everything. She showed Jamal, who whistled low. That's it, Aisha. You did it. But come hard? That's not good. No. Aisha said, her voice steady despite the fear. We need to move. Mom and I can't stay here after the story breaks. She grabbed the burner phone, texting Lila's secure Dropbox. Stories dropping. Need a safe place for my mom. Help. She didn't know if Lila would respond, but she had to try. Renee emerged from the bedroom, sensing the shift. What's happened? She asked, her eyes sharp. Aisha told her about Lila's email, the story, the danger. Renee's face hardened, but she nodded. We'll go to my cousin's in Milwaukee. She's off the grid, no ties to us. But you're coming too, Aisha. Aisha shook her head. I can't, Mom. I started this. I need to see it through. I'll meet you there after I make sure the story lands. Renee's eyes blazed. You're not staying here alone. I'm your mother, and I'm saying no. Mom, please, Aisha said, her voice breaking. I'll be with Jamal, and I'll be careful. But I can't run yet. Horizon's gotta know they can't win. Renee's hands trembled, but she pulled Aisha into a hug. You're too stubborn for your own good. But I trust you. Be safe, baby. Aisha clung to her, then stepped back, turning to Jamal. You in? Like I'd let you do this solo, he said, grinning despite the tension. Let's make Horizon regret messing with Westfield. That afternoon, Aisha and Jamal swept the apartment with Lila's detector one last time, then packed light bags. Renee left for Milwaukee, her cousin's address scribbled on a paper Aisha tucked away. Aisha used the burner to check the forum. Ghostbite had replied. Can help. Send details, secure line. Not cheap. Aisha's heart leapt. She sent a vague reply, promising payment later, and included a burner number. As night fell, Aisha and Jamal holed up in a cheap motel near the bus station, cash only to avoid tracking. Aisha's laptop was off, the burner her only link to the outside. At midnight, it buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Stories live in 6 hours. Horizon's already moving. Get out of Chicago. Now. It wasn't Lila's Dropbox, but the urgency felt real. Aisha showed Jamal, her voice low. They know. Somehow they know. Jamal grabbed their bags. We're gone. Bus to Milwaukee, then we figure out the rest. Aisha nodded, but as they stepped outside, headlights flared in the motel lot. A black SUV idled, its windows dark. A man stepped out, tall, suited, his face familiar. Victor Lang. Aisha. Lang called, his voice smooth but cold. You've made a mess. Let's talk, before it gets worse. Aisha's blood froze, but she stood her ground, Jamal at her side. Nothing to talk about, she said, her voice steady. Your story's over, Lang. The world's gonna know what you're doing. Lang's smile was thin, dangerous. You think a blog post will stop me? Hand over Nexus, and I'll make sure your mom stays safe. Last chance. Aisha's hand tightened on her bag, the burner phone inside. She thought of the files, Lila, her mom's hug. Go to hell, she said, her voice ablade. Lang's eyes darkened, and he raised a hand. 2 more men stepped from the SUV, their silhouettes menacing. Aisha grabbed Jamal's arm, her mind racing. The bus station was a block away, but they'd never make it. Not unless she fought. Run, she whispered to Jamal, pulling the burner phone. As Lang's men advanced, she dialed Ghostbite's number, praying they'd answer. The line clicked, and a distorted voice said, Talk. Horizon's after me, Aisha hissed, backing away. Track their SUV, black, at 63rd and Pulaski. Help now. The voice paused, then, on it. Stall them. Aisha dropped the phone, facing Lang. Her heart pounded, but her voice was fire. You're too late, Lang. The story's out, and I'm not alone. Lang laughed, stepping closer. You're a kid with a toy robot. You're nothing. But as he spoke, a loud crack split the air. A tire on the SUV blew, the vehicle lurching. Lang spun, cursing, and Aisha seized the moment, sprinting with Jamal toward the bus station, their footsteps echoing in the night. Horizon was coming, but Aisha was ready to burn their empire down. Aisha's lungs burned as she and Jamal sprinted through the Chicago night. The The bus station's neon lights a faint beacon in the distance. The echo of their footsteps mixed with the screech of tires behind them. Lang's SUV. Its blown tire slowing, but not stopping it. Her heart pounded. The burner phone's call to Ghost Bite, her only lifeline. Stall them, the hacker had said. But Aisha was out of tricks, her legs heavy, Nexus's bag slamming against her hip. Keep moving, Jamal shouted, grabbing her arm as they dodged into an alley. The narrow space reeked of garbage, its shadows offering brief cover. Aisha's mind raced. Lang's cold smile, his men closing in, the story set to break in hours. She'd told him the truth. Horizon's secrets were out, or would be soon. But if they caught her now, Nexus and her were done. Aisha skidded to a stop, her back against a brick wall. We can't outrun them, she gasped, her voice ragged. The bus is too far. We need a plan. Jamal's eyes darted to the alley's mouth, where headlights flashed. You got that hacker on speed dial? 'Cause we're out of time. Aisha fumbled for the burner phone, her hands shaking as she redialed Ghost Bite. The line clicked, the distorted voice sharp. You're still alive. Good. SUV's got a tracker. I've jammed it for now. Head west, 2 blocks. There's a construction site. Hide there. I'm sending help. Help? Aisha hissed, ducking as the SUV's lights swept the alley. Who are you sending? No time, Ghost Bite said. Move. Now. The call cut off. Aisha grabbed Jamal's sleeve. Construction site, west. Go. They bolted, weaving through alleys, the SUV's engine growling behind them. The construction site loomed ahead, a skeleton of steel beams and concrete, fenced off, but with a gap in the chain link. Aisha squeezed through, Jamal behind her, and they crouched behind a stack of plywood, their breaths loud in the quiet. The SUV slowed, its headlights cutting through the fence. Lang's voice carried, smooth and venomous. Aisha, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Give me Nexus, and this ends. Your mom stays safe. You walk away. Aisha's blood boiled, but she stayed silent, her hand tightening on Nexus's bag. Jamal whispered, he's bluffing. Story's dropping soon. He's desperate. Aisha nodded, but fear gnawed at her. What if Lila's publisher backed out? What if the story wasn't enough? She peeked around the plywood, seeing Lang's silhouette, his men fanning out. Her phone buzzed, a text from Ghost Bite. Help's here. Look up. Aisha glanced skyward, her breath catching. A small drone, nothing like Horizon's sleek tech, but scrappy, cobbled together, hovered above, its lights blinking erratically. It dove, buzzing Lang's men, who cursed and swatted at it. A second drone joined, then a third, their whines chaotic. Lang shouted, find the controller. Aisha's heart leapt. Ghost Bite, or their crew, was buying her time. Now, she whispered, pulling Jamal toward the site's far end. They ran, ducking under beams, the drone's chaos covering their escape. A chain link gap led to a side street, and Aisha pushed through, her jacket snagging. The bus station was close, its lights brighter now. But as they reached the street, a figure stepped from the shadows. Lila Monroe, her red scarf loose, her face tense. Aisha, she said, her voice low. You're harder to track than I thought. Aisha froze, Jamal tensing beside her. Lila, how'd you find me? No time, Lila said, glancing at the drone still buzzing behind them. Stories live in 3 hours. My publisher's ready, but Horizon's scrambling. They know you're the source. Come with me, safe house, out of state. Aisha's mind spun. A safe house? What about my mom? She's in Milwaukee. Taken care of, Lila said, her voice firm. My contacts are moving her to a new location. But you need to move, now. Lang's not stopping. Jamal stepped forward, his voice sharp. Hold up. How do we know you're not with Horizon? You show up out of nowhere, talking safe houses? Prove it. Lila's eyes flickered, but she pulled a phone from her pocket, showing a draft article. Horizon Tech's secret weapons. Leaked files expose AI arms race. Aisha's code, Nexus's schematics, and Project Sentinel's plans were laid bare, credited to an anonymous source. This is live soon, Lila said. I'm not Horizon. I'm your way out. Aisha's chest tightened. The article was real, her fight made public. But Lang's men were close, their shouts echoing from the construction site. Okay, she said, her voice steady. But Jamal comes too. Lila nodded. Fine. Cars around the corner. Move. They followed Lila to a beat-up sedan, its engine idling. Aisha slid into the back with Jamal, Nexus's bag between her knees. As Lila floored it, the city blurring past. "Where are we going?" Aisha asked, her voice muffled by the engine's roar. "Indiana, for now," Lila said, her eyes on the road. "Safe house in Gary. My team's there, hackers, journalists, people who've been burned by Horizon. You'll be safe until the story breaks." Jamal leaned forward, skeptical. "Your team? Who's bankrolling this? You're not doing this out of charity." Lila's lips twitched. "No charity. Crowdfunded mostly. People who hate Horizon as much as I do. You'll meet them." She glanced at Aisha in the rear view. "You did good, kid. Those files, they're a bomb. Horizon's done." Aisha's throat tightened, relief mixing with fear. "They'll come for me. Lang won't let this go." "He won't," Lila said bluntly. "But you've got the world watching now. They can't touch you without blowback." The drive was tense, the burner phone silent in Aisha's pocket. As they crossed into Indiana, the city's glow faded, replaced by dark fields and flickering stars. Aisha thought of her mom, safe, or so Lila claimed. She thought of Nexus, still hers, its mismatched frame a symbol of everything she'd fought for. At the safe house, a nondescript house with boarded windows, Aisha met Lila's team, a wiry hacker named Kai, who grinned and said, "Ghostbite sends their regards," a former Horizon coder turned whistleblower, and a journalist with a thick accent who'd fled Europe after exposing a tech giant. They crowded around a laptop, the article's draft open, set to publish in an hour. Kai handed Aisha a coffee, his voice low. "You're a legend, you know that? This'll shake the industry." Aisha shook her head, clutching Nexus's bag. "I just wanted to keep my robot. Now I'm this." "You're a fighter," Lila said, joining them. "And you're not done. When this breaks, Horizon stock'll tank, their contracts'll dry up. But they'll hit back. Stay sharp." As the clock ticked towards 6 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, Aisha stood by the safe house's window, the horizon turning pink. The article went live, her burner buzzing with alerts as news sites picked it up. Horizon Tech accused of building AI weapons. Leaked files reveal. Social media exploded, hashtags trending, hashtag Nexus Truth, hashtag Horizon Exposed. Aisha's name wasn't in the story, but she felt exposed, raw. Jamal sat beside her, his voice soft. "You did it, Aisha. You took on a giant and won." "Not yet," Aisha said, her eyes on the dawn. "Lang's still out there. And Nexus is still mine." She thought of the science fair, the jeers, the $1 million offer that started it all. She'd been mocked, hunted, but she'd never broken. And she wouldn't now. The burner buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Well played, Aisha. But this isn't over." No signature, but she knew. Lang. Her hand tightened on Nexus's bag, her resolve steel. Horizon had underestimated her, and they'd pay for it. As the sun rose, Aisha turned to Lila. "What's next?" Lila's smile was fierce. "We keep fighting. You in?" Aisha nodded, her voice fire. "All the way." If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to know what true strength looks like. Join us at Narratives of Black Struggles for more stories that shine a light on resilience and justice.